Hello and welcome back to the Shawnet Unplugged. I'm Sita and it's nice to be back with you today. I know I've been a bit MIA, but lots has been happening in my life, and I'm going to share something with you today that I don't normally talk about, and that is about my tours in India. As you know, sometimes when I am showing you my crafts and my yarns, I am in India and you can hear and sometimes see everything going on around me. But at the moment, I'm back in South Africa. I'm between tours and I have somebody here today who is going to be one of my guests on my future tour in February. And I've invited her to ask me some questions so that I can share a bit of the information about myself in India, what I do, about my tours, and what you could expect if you came on one of my tours. So, should we have a question and answer?
Perfect. So, Sita, I know nothing about India. I've never been. It is your enthusiasm that has inspired me to go along. I'm going to ask some odd questions. If one is not a very spiritual being, is that okay? Can I come as quite a Western-minded thinker rather than a spiritual thinker?
Well, that's a very good question, I must say. I don't see why not. You know, every place in India is not steeped in spirituality. A lot of specific places are, and there are lots of temples, and you will see Buddhist monks, and you will see mosques and Hindu temples and people carrying out rituals that are very ancient and all spiritual of a religious nature, but that does not require you to be particularly interested in that. Generally, I would say to a Westerner, India is more fascinating from a visual perspective of all these spiritual practices. And they are quite foreign to all of us because we're not accustomed to them. But this is something, you know, things that people do every day in their daily life without even thinking about it. So I don't think, you know, you should have any fears about having to be a spiritual person. All that is really required is that if you would like to visit the temples and the holy sites, which are very beautiful from many different aspects, even there, especially actually their archaeological and architectural design, is to respect the custom. That's all that's required of you, you know, and that would mean to, you know, certain cover your shoulders and take off your shoes and things like that. So if you can manage that, India's for you.
Okay, perfect. So one of the highlights, definitely from your point of view, is the Sufi Festival. So I haven't done a lot of research on this, but from what I'm understanding is we are not going to watch 3 days of whirling dervish Sufi dances. So why is it called the Sufi Festival rather than any other music festival?
Okay, well, it was originally called the Sacred Spirit Sufi Festival. Now they have dropped the word Sufi because Sufi is a specific spiritual culture. The whirling dervishes that we all think of as Sufis come from an offshoot of the Muslim religion, and it's a kind of, I would call, a shamanic path of the Muslim religion where dance and trance and sound is used as a method of worship. So within this festival, there will be definitely Sufi singers, but you could liken them more or less to the Sistine monks chanting, for example. So, or you know, or Buddhist chants. But I mean, they are not particularly religious chants. They are spiritual people who sing songs of devotion. So like hymns, I think we could basically say devotional music using traditional instruments, and also blended with a lot of modern music. But in India in particular, most of the Indian instruments, like the tabla and the sitar and the saroj, they are basically instruments used for prayer, because prayers are sung and chanted. So they are accompaniments to prayer, but they are also used for, classical music, classical dance music, and classical dance is also a form of spirituality. So it's basically a festival that is focused more on the spiritual side of life. It's not a rock festival or a jazz festival, but it's a world culture of sacred music.
Great. Now for your tour, I want to get a bit practical for a moment. This is what you advertised as part of the highlights of this tour. I'm assuming this means that we are guaranteed tickets, because I have read that they are hard to come by.
Yes, they are very hard to come by. Yes, you are guaranteed tickets. I am already on the scout with my people in Jodhpur. It is a very exclusive festival, I think I could say. It's very, very beautifully put together by the Raj, or the Prince of Jodhpur, and the trust who runs the fort, the Marenga fort, where it's held. And the tickets are put out very close to the opening date. So they have a very strange system in India, even with the dates. We do not know the exact dates yet, but we will get them. So yes, you will get the tickets. I will get the tickets, and it will be for the full duration of the festival, which is 3 days.
Okay, that's really exciting. Now, coming from South Africa, and anybody who has visited South Africa, when I get to India, am I going to see a similar amount of, I'm assuming I'm going to see more people, and I'm assuming that, like here, I just need to be careful of my bag and be mindful of where I'm walking. So am I right in this assumption that I need to fear for my life, or are we actually in safe areas?
We are really in very safe areas, okay? That is not to say that, we will land at Indira Gandhi International Airport, which is huge and teeming with people when you get outside the airport. And there will be people wanting to offer you taxis and offer you all sorts of things, and nobody is really trying to harm you. I would say I really feel that Indians respect life and humanity, and they are not looking to harm you in any way. You could encounter pickpockets in very squashed urban areas, but we are not going to find ourselves in those areas whatsoever. We are not going to be on, very tight packed trains or buses, or in areas where you're going to be under any kind of threat. Of course, it is advisable not to flaunt your cameras, and to have your bags and things securely on your person. But I really feel that India is a very, very safe country, and I never fear for my life in India or for my property. I think you will be fine.
Okay, that's quite exciting to hear. And now just one more practical question. And I probably have a few more practical questions. Does it matter that I only speak English and perhaps another European language? I have no knowledge of any Eastern languages.
And it does not matter at all. You are hardly expected to be able to speak any Indian languages. And that is one of the reasons why you come with me, because I speak Hindi. I would not say I'm a fluent Hindi speaker, but I can hold conversations. I've spent 15 years in India, and for the first 5 years or so, I was not around any English speakers. I was in the mountains with people that spoke very little, and what they did speak was Hindi. So you can get by, it's absolutely fine. Everybody speaks English to some degree, some very, very well. And a lot of the older generation really enjoys speaking English. So I sometimes even find I might start a conversation off in my obviously broken Hindi, and they will just pick it up in English and carry on in English. And they love to speak English. So it will be helpful to you that I can speak Hindi and understand, because when it comes to the commercial side of tourism, everybody's out to make a buck, and India is no exception whatsoever. So this will help to avoid you being ripped off in many, many ways, and just to let you feel, a little bit more at ease. And what past clients on my tours have said, that they've really enjoyed this aspect, because they felt that through me being able to communicate with the guides and the local people, they have got closer to the culture, the understanding of the culture.
Perfect. And tell me a bit about the accommodation. Are we sharing bathrooms? Are we sharing rooms? How does it work?
So my tours in India are considered to be something a bit different to what one would normally find advertised, group tours. For a start, they are really small. I take up to 8 people, but I will take 2 people. I love the intimacy of the tour. So the other thing is that I like to feel that I am in India and offering this very local cultural experience to my guests. So we will not be staying in fancy 5-star hotels. I don't want to mention names, but palaces that have been remade, and that's not our style. We want to stay in something more authentic. So we will be staying in mostly family run, but not only heritage hotels, they are called. They're called this because they are usually in beautiful old heritage buildings that have been renovated. They could be in homes that are heritage homes that have been renovated and changed into guest accommodation. So it's 3 to 4-star hotels, and the food is always gorgeous, home cooked food, and just the whole experience is more local and more on the ground and balanced. You can stay in these fancy palaces, and then you step out onto the road and you can get a shock. And I just find it's more closer to the reality of life in India. And the hosts are really so welcoming and appreciative of foreigners wanting to stay in these kind of accommodations, because most of Western people want to stay in 5- and 7-star hotels, and those that don't, I think I get the benefit of getting closer to the people. And that's my idea with my tours to India, is to bring you closer to the culture.
Perfect. So tell me about the bathroom situation.
I'm sorry,
I know this bothers a lot of people.
Yes. So when I do the bookings, I usually cost out my tour at 2 people sharing a room with an attached bathroom. So you'll always have your own bathroom attached to your room. You can elect to have your own room. So you'll either be by yourself in your room with your own bathroom, or with your friend or your partner, or should you have to share with somebody you don't know, that very rarely happens. You will always have your own bathroom. They will always have what's called a Western toilet, because the Eastern toilet is vastly different. We know all about that. It's basically a hole in the ground and requires one to be able to squat down. Just a second. Which is not that comfortable, and not many people can do that. So tourists are not required to do that. So you will have good clean bathrooms, Western style toilets, lovely towels, everything you would expect from a normal Western hotel.
Great. And the food. So I hear about Indian food from in any country I've traveled in, and when I taste it, all I taste is hot chili, and I don't taste those subtle spices often.
Yes.
That's different in India, if I'm right.
Yes, I think I found that in every culture. If you go to an Italian restaurant in New York, I'm sure it's not the same as the Italian restaurant in Italy, and it's definitely different in India. Each area in India has its own cuisine, and really, none of them really focus on burning your mouth and killing your taste buds. There's so many spices with such lovely flavors. Chilies do enhance flavor. And you will always find in traditional restaurants that your waiter, seeing you are a foreigner, will ask you, do you want it normal or medium or no spice? You can have the choice. And on the table will always be a little plate with fresh green chilies. Even for Indians, fresh green chilies and sliced onions. And so what happens is you eat your meal and you just, chew on your chili if you want more heat. So there are spicy foods, but nothing unbearable, and you can choose to even have food that is not spicy at all. It would be about 90% vegetarian food. One can order what's called non-veg, which I always find to be quite a hilarious term. Do you want veg or non-veg? But we don't really go for the non-veg. Only in very, very few places would I advise that. In Rajasthan in particular, they do eat a lot of mutton. It's a desert, it's an arid part of the world. There's not loads and loads of vegetables. Meat is part of the menu, but it's not an essential part. And there are, as I said, like a major percentage of people do not eat any meat whatsoever.
Great. And if you have guests that are particular about their food, like they're on a carnivore diet or a vegan diet, can you accommodate both extremes if needed?
Well, a pure carnivore diet might be difficult. Although there is, if you're going to take into consideration yogurt and milk products and cheese, if that's part of a carnivore diet, you'll be fine. But there's always a sauce that accompanies that. I think it could be quite interesting. It could be very interesting. I've never had a carnivore person, exclusive carnivore person. Vegan is not a problem whatsoever. Vegan is
and gluten.
Gluten means that you are not going to be eating the delicious naan breads and chapatis. If you have a serious if you're a celiac, for example, and you have a gluten allergy. Why I say that is because the varieties of wheat that are grown in India are very, very different from our Western wheats. First of all, they're not GMO, and they are very light in gluten. They're not, the stretchy kind of doughy things. They're flat breads, totally unadulterated, and often they're mixed with other grains like millet and barley. That's very high on the list, but you would have to go without the breads, and besides that you'll be fine. Yeah.
Great. So I think this has been a very practical point of view, and I'm hoping that at another stage we could do another one with more of the interesting parts.
Yes, let's do that. I think this is enough for today. Thank you very much for your questions. So I hope this gives some insight to anybody who may have these questions. They're very, very good questions for people going for the first time to India to, get an idea and to allay their fears, because a lot of people do come with certain fears, and just to know what is and what isn't possible. But India, I just have to end off by saying, is a very, very friendly and respectful country. They are aware of the fact that tourists tourism is a huge part of the success of a lot of it. It brings a lot of jobs, and people love sharing the information about the culture, and they really appreciate that foreigners would want to know this. So you decide and come along. Come with me on my Mystic India tours. I have a shopping tour in November, which is going to be great fun. That is already out on social media. And then I have the tour in February, which is the Sacred Spirit Music Festival tour, with a mystery added. It's a musical mystery tour. Thanks for joining us today, and see you soon. Bye for now.